And welcome to Sihasin Hour. Wanted to welcome everybody. It's been a couple of episodes that we haven't been live, but we're live today, and we have a great special guest with us. It's a beautiful day today. It's Wednesday, August 17th. Across the reservation and especially around Window Rock, we got quite a bit of rain yesterday. So we've had a lot of flooding, but it's been really good because the land has been so dry. But just having the rain recently has been a real blessing, and it's been nice to see and nice to feel. So today, our guest is Bleu Adams. And I just want to welcome Bleu first and foremost to Sihasin Hour. We're very glad to have her as a guest today. But what we wanted to focus on is her experience in starting businesses. Now, she's been very successful in starting businesses both on and off the Navajo Nation. And for many of our tribal members, they aspire to launch businesses here on the Navajo Nation. Our native people, our Dene people, have many talents and skills, and many of them would like to use those skills to support themselves, their families, their livelihood. As natives, we're creative, we're innovative, and many of our people have gone to school or even just gained work experience to develop skills that they could use to help our community members, and also use to support themselves. But for a lot of our people, starting a business is a little bit daunting, and it seems like it's a road that could be filled with obstacles, or possibly we just need a little bit more assistance in navigating the process. So as I had said and introduced, our guest is Bleu Adams. Bleu is a member of the 3 affiliated tribes and is also a Dene San who has taken it upon herself to create and launch businesses both on and off the reservation, the Navajo Nation, as I had said. And today, we wanted to just hear some of her insights and her experiences that might help provide a little bit of guidance for our aspiring entrepreneurs. Now, forgive me, I forgot, I didn't even introduce myself, but my name is Mahayo Manus. I'm the Public Relations Director with Yeha Altnido with the Navajo and Hopi Families COVID-19 Relief Fund. And I'm glad to be here today, glad to welcome the guests. I just want to also encourage anybody who's out there who's watching to post any questions that you might have in the comments section while we're live here. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Bleu here to give us a little bit of an introduction. Maybe Bleu, you can tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Bleu Adams. I'm Mandan, Haratsa, and Dene. On my mother's side, I'm Totoshini. On my father's side, I'm Waterbuster. I live both in Utah and I have a home on the reservation in Cross Canyon. So I travel back and forth quite a bit. I've been in business for about 20 years. Previous to that, my family owned several businesses. So I've always had experience as an entrepreneur, watching my parents become entrepreneurs. I went to business school in Provo, Utah, started my first businesses in Provo, and have recently tried to establish businesses on the Navajo Reservation in Window Rock. So we'll talk a little bit about that journey, if you like.
Awesome, thanks. And just I've known Bleu for several years. I've known her family. We kind of went to school at the same time in Window Rock, and that was many years ago, I guess. But well, but like she said, her family has always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I remember back in the day, one of the things was they operated the cinema that's still running in Window Rock. And so it was always cool to see them and see what they were doing. They were kind of forging ahead in terms of some of the entrepreneurial spirit that has kind of existed in our people, but in Window Rock. But I wanted to give Bleu some time here and talk to us or to let us know about maybe some of the some of the businesses that she started. And in my kind of observation of some of the things that she's done, one of the bigger things that I thought was the Black Sheep Cafe, and because that was a restaurant that really kind of it was a restaurant that highlighted native cuisine in an area that where native cuisine is like void of many of the restaurant's menus. And that could be probably said for any place across the United States. But it was something that she had done that I thought was to me was very successful. Along with launching Black Sheep, she's had a number of other endeavors. I know that she did have a Blackbird down at kind of the Robbie Day business area here in Window Rock. She's more recently done House of Fry Bread, but maybe you could talk to us about starting Black Sheep and some of the motivations that pushed you to take that step and launch that business. So I'll go ahead and let you talk about that.
Sure. So graduating school, we were required to write a business plan, and I actually wrote two. I wrote a business plan. My mom and dad are both artists, and I always loved showcasing their art. So I started a small gallery as my graduation project called Sun Eagle Gallery in Provo. And I was often catering events or openings. And I thought, how cool would it be to have a restaurant that is both? It features native cuisine, but also arts and crafts and performances, etc. Really focusing on more of an elegant style of dining. I wanted to elevate the food I grew up on into a fine dining experience. So I spent the next couple of years after graduating purchasing equipment. And it was funny because I'd never worked in a restaurant before. And I don't recommend that to anybody. I just knew I wanted to open the restaurant. I didn't have a lot of money. Restaurants often are very, very expensive to launch. And we just had a shoestring budget. So we bought a lot of used equipment, used furniture, we refurbished. We ended up finding a space that was already had been a restaurant. So that helped save money on plumbing, putting the HVAC system in. Saved us probably a couple $100,000 just in build out. And we were just shoving things in storage. I didn't even know what it was. I knew it came out of a restaurant, so I bought it and shoved it in storage. And I did that for a few years while we raised more money. By the time we launched Black Sheep, I'm always been really I'm best at marketing. So we spent most of those years marketing. I don't know if you remember a website called Blogspot.
Okay. Yeah.
So we had a blog spot where we post, this was before Instagram, TikTok, about when Facebook was starting. We had our own blog and we would post updates to what we were doing, the construction progress, testing menu. So we created a following. Mm-hmm. And that helped us when we opened. We were busy from day one, people just waiting.
Wow.
So that, marketing is huge in your business. Mm-hmm. We picked Provo because it had a large concentration of returned missionaries from reservations. Mm-hmm. And they always wanted fry bread. Mm-hmm. So that's what they were familiar with. And we did add fry bread to our menu, but it was also a way to introduce other dishes. Blue corn mush we actually used as polenta, and we did a dish of blue corn shrimp and grits.
Cool.
It's kind of a play on a southern dish. Blue corn enchiladas, bison burgers, just being creative with indigenous ingredients and products.
Mhm.
And I knew from the very beginning, I wanted to source locally.
Mhm.
Utah has a lot of great farms, a lot of great protein. We have an heirloom tomato farm right near us, so
Awesome.
that was a huge goal for us. And also sustainability, so making sure our to-go products were compostable, that we were thinking about the waste that we created as a restaurant, not just food but also trash. So we tried not to use single-use products, everything, just thinking about conservation and um, the environment in our business model.
Mhm.
So my brother is a chef. It was funny because I had the idea for the menu, things I grew up eating in Window Rock or around the reservation,
Uh-huh.
but I wanted them to be a little more elevated,
Sure. Yeah.
more flavor.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I would come up with ideas, but my brother, who was a practiced chef,
Mhm.
it took me about 2 years to convince him to actually come cook for me, to cook in my restaurant,
Yeah.
because he was cooking in Scottsdale at one of his favorite Italian restaurants. So after a couple years, I kind of headhunted him and brought him in, and
Mhm.
with his influence and his talent, we won so many awards.
Wow.
We got huge recognition, not just nationally but globally.
Mhm.
I quit even marketing to local and started marketing globally.
Wow.
And we'd get reviews from as far away as London, Japan. We were in a Japan magazine, newspaper, etc. But
Mhm.
our mission was always to win awards and win recognition on the basis of our talent and our food,
Mhm.
rather than just being a novelty. So I was really careful about like what articles we participated in. Bizarre Foods hit us up and they're like, "Can we be on? You want to be on our show?" Like, no.
Really, you guys
Our
turned
food.
into our foods.
We turned down so many programs because
Wow.
we didn't want to be showcased as bizarre or
Mhm.
odd.
Yeah.
They wanted us to butcher a sheep, which isn't bizarre to me. We
Yeah,
were
totally.
really careful about how we presented ourselves. Um, and Chef would get so mad because that was a huge opportunity.
Mhm.
But I just couldn't do it. So we fought a lot, but
Just to kind of you know elaborate here a little bit more, but uh Blue's brother was Mark Mason, and he was a classically trained chef, and he had cooked in a lot of I'm not even sure how you classify them, but 5-star chef or restaurants across Scottsdale. And ever since I had known Mark as becoming a chef, it seemed like he was consistently working on new recipes, looking at the things that he was doing and just kind of like boosting them up like times 100, So in some of the things that I saw at on your menu at Black Sheep, it just looked like elevating the traditional Navajo taco to like the umpth degree. And they were doing like chili verde, and like she was saying, blue corn enchiladas, just all these other things. The polenta with the shrimp looked awesome. But I think that was something that was it was a way to look at, like she was, like you said, our traditional foods, and just kind of say, these things can translate across, any appetite or any palate, within the Navajo Nation or in Provo, LA, anywhere. And so just kind of taking our foods and leveling them up is something that I thought was really awesome. But I just wanted to kind of go ahead. I just kind of wanted to talk about Mark a little bit there.
yeah, he was so good at that. I mean, he took a piece of fry bread and just, I always compare it because sometimes it gets a bad connotation, but you think about New Orleans and the beignets, the French beignets, and
Mhm.
how they're kind of the height of culinary
Mhm.
dough, fried dough.
Yeah.
You think about ramen and how that came out of kind of a survival meal for
Mhm.
actually started in China and then the Japanese adopted it. But you
Mhm.
think about dough in those terms, and you know, he was able to bring about that fry bread dish to such a degree when he cooked at Alinea and he was talking with Chef Grant Ackett, who's a Michelin starred chef,
Mhm.
talking about his background and his heritage. The fry bread actually ended up on one of Ackett's menus at Royster in Chicago, which they currently serve. I mean, that, you know, it's just another evolution of food, and
Mhm.
in moderation, it's great. But that was his talent, was elevating food that we grew up on and that he loved.
Mhm.
So Black Sheep started in 2011.
Mhm.
I actually sold it in 2018, and that's when I really started delving into IndigiHub. Well, we started a Blue Poblano as well, which was a taco shop. We partnered with a restaurant group with Blue Poblano, but I'm not sure if it's still operating.
Mhm.
And both of us made the decision, you know, we started to realize that we weren't getting as much as our community in at Black Sheep as we wanted. I'd say maybe less than 5% of our customers were Indigenous. And we wanted to create opportunity and access for our community, especially where we grew up, to have this kind of food and this kind of experience.
Mhm.
So we started IndigiHub, and we started our first chef's boot camp in 2017, I believe,
Oh, wow.
or 2018. And chef's boot camp was a 3-day intense boot camp for all ages, all genders. It was the opportunity to work in a commercial restaurant setting. To our students, we gave them basic skills, and what was so interesting is their ability just to absorb information just by watching. They were very, very, very quiet. And then when we first started, we thought, well, we're going to attract probably mostly male, mid-20s, you know, people that are interested in cooking.
Yeah.
We had mostly female. I'd say nine out of 10 were female, and they started at age 6 to age 50,
Wow.
which just blew me away.
Mhm.
And they were so quick to absorb information. By day 3, they were able to produce a 3-course menu for 30 people.
Wow.
And they did almost as, if not better, than some of my teams that I've been working with for years.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
It was awesome. We did that for a couple years, and then we decided to open Blackbird. And again, on the premise that we were sourcing locally, we were providing from scratch food,
Mhm.
and we were giving opportunity for people to work in a professional kitchen.
Mhm. Real
But
quick, what were these chefs boot camps? Were those the ones that took place at the Navajo
the
Nation
museum,
Museum? Okay, so did you kind of
yep,
partner with the museum a little bit to
yeah,
utilize that
absolutely.
space or something? Yeah.
Yeah, Manuelito's always been a big supporter of the art, especially the culinary arts,
Mhm.
art in general. And he's always been very supportive of us. So he gave us the
Yeah.
kitchen space to use.
Yeah, big shout out to Manny, because Manny he really has stepped up to support some of these more innovative ideas. But yeah, go ahead and continue on. You were just you were talking about your next kind of business there.
So we started Blackbird, which was a brunch spot.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we come to understand is the lack of cooking knowledge, not just skill, but you know, building recipes and just building that basic palette for people, because our community is very reliant on processed, prepackaged food, fast food, etc. So we wanted to introduce familiar dishes, but we were packing things in there that people didn't even realize, like using microgreens, all kinds of vegetables that we just put in everything. You know, you could tell us, well, I don't like onions. That's too bad because there's 6 onions in those beans. But we did it in a way that was palatable.
Mhm.
And I really believe that our economy is tied to nutrition, access to food. I think that's where we should start. If we
Mhm.
want to build a foundation for a thriving economy, we need to start through food and nutrition.
Mhm.
Because we know through studies, not only do we spend twice as much on healthcare than we do really on food, people that are not getting adequate nutrition struggle to be innovative and creative. They're just kind of stuck in a survival mode, trying to get by day to day. And it clouds their thinking, it hurts them physically and mentally.
Mhm.
If we want to create a healthy economic environment, especially with fostering the entrepreneurial spirit, we should start with nutrition.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the premise behind Blackbird. You know,
Foundation for
there's this familiar dishes, but much more nutritious, packed with
Yeah.
nutrients.
I mean, I think that's an interesting point too, just in terms of your experience and how you feel that, you know, developing an economy is tied to nutrition, and maybe some of those other aspects of farm to table, or just kind of how maybe as tribal communities, we've moved away a little bit from agricultural based economies, you know, and maybe of course, you know, a lot of our tribal nations have been kind of tied to resource extraction types of economies. But just in terms of like looking across tribal landscapes and assessing, like, well, you know, I don't see as many huge farms anymore, you know, big cornfields, you know, what are some of our you know, indigenous crops that we don't see growing as much anymore, or any of those kinds of things. It just sometimes it makes sense, where it's like, it seems like if more of our people were, you know, participating in these you know, these lifeways that we've had just traditionally, you know, we might be able to create different types of economies. But, you know, at the same time, it's nice to also see, especially around fair time, and how our fair times often usually they coincide with like harvest seasons. But like, you know, you go to Shiprock during their fair time, and there's just vendors all over the road, you know, selling squash, selling tsudagoi, selling chilies, neshjiji and stuff like that. But you know, some of these kinds of things, like even steamed corn, seem like, I mean, like there could be a market for that. And even like, I know a guy who lives in Upper Fruitland, and his family farms corn and processes steamed corn, or, you know, makes the steamed corn, and they export it, he says, to like areas in LA and San Francisco. And so there does seem to be, you know, an economy there that we just kind of don't seem to move on, I guess. But just looking at those kinds of things, I can agree with you. You know, we should be there is a market for that. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it's going to take some education for our restaurants and food stands on the reservation to start purchasing locally, and how that can benefit everybody. But like you said, we're exporting very healthy, not just vegetable, but protein as well. We a lot of our sheep herders, they process their meat and then they sell it off res, and then we're just importing garbage.
Yeah.
So that really needs to be addressed. And we do that not by shaming, but just providing education and providing, you know, data around how quickly we can boost an economy through food and food and through the retail end of food too.
Mhm.
I've been working with Local First Utah for many, many years. Been in contact with Local First New Mexico, Local First Arizona, and their data shows when you buy from a local business, you can reinvest up to 45% of that revenue locally,
Mhm.
3 to 6 times before it leaves the community. But with food, it can be up to 80%.
Awesome. Wow.
So
Wow.
it's just going to take some education and then support, especially from the community. I mean, I've worked on both ends. My sister is operating the Alon gas station in Winter Rock right now, and what we've come to realize is we pay a premium, just even the imported stuff like potato chips or the Hostess donuts, etc.
Mm-hmm.
We have a premium tacked on because we're on the reservation.
Oh,
And then because they're a single location, it's even a higher price point.
wow. Wow.
So we really get taken advantage of being on the reservation. I've heard many, many stories about cattle farmers or farmers in general getting lower price quotes because, and they'll tell them specifically, well, your cattle grazes on the Navajo Nation. We don't want to pay you, market price.
Wow.
So we can amend that by starting to not just as consumers, but also the retail and the wholesale end start purchasing locally.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really important to us. And that's kind of why I've gone back trying to provide a model or a business model.
Mm-hmm.
I just opened Skoden Coffee at the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose coffee because it's more often than not, it's an indigenous food product, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're really good about co-opting and sourcing organically.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that roasts my coffee is from Gallup, Labog Coffee.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Awesome.
So again, there's that local component, and both indigenous and want to support indigenous business. Mm-hmm. But also it helps us create a conversation. So say you come and order coffee from us. We make half of our syrups in-house, so you have the opportunity to get sugar-free or honey-based syrups, or you can get sugar-based syrups, which I don't have a problem. Again, moderation is important.
Yeah.
And we do top with whipped cream, but we don't have added sugar. It's straight whipped cream. You know what I mean? We're not adding sugar on top of it.
That's awesome.
And then we don't do lids. We do paper cups, but we don't do lids because they're not compostable. You can't break them down unless it's in a facility. Even if it says compostable lids, you still required to go to a facility, and we don't have any. We don't have a single operating landfill on the Navajo Nation.
That's right.
So we're really careful about the waste we create. We want it to break down within 90 days.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And just real quick, I wanted to just Skoden Coffee is down at the Winter Rock vendor pavilion, right at the intersection. And it's kind of next to the Alon station where they have the flea market. But just wanted to let everybody know that that's where it's at. If you guys are in the area, please go down there and get some coffee. I think that I know I kind of cut you off here, but the thing that I thought was interesting in terms of how you talked about your sister owning the gas station is even for things like junk food and processed food, those things come to the Navajo Nation at a higher price than maybe people who are getting them in Gallup or Winslow or any of these other even border towns. So I mean, like, for people out there who are listening, I mean, like, why should we continue to buy those things? They're just loaded with sugar, they're loaded with just processed chemicals and everything, but it seems like those are what people go to the gas stations to buy. We should be kind of turning around that paradigm of how we look at snacking and snack foods. But anyways, Skoden Coffee.
Yeah, and what's really cool is they're starting to offer fruit, and they want to create a deli and offer sandwiches and, different alternatives. And they want to slowly phase out a lot of the chips and sodas and stuff and go, at least half of it or 50% of it healthier foods.
Awesome.
So there's definitely a trend towards creating access to healthier foods. But again, with Skoden, it gives us an environment to create a conversation. So it doesn't sound like preaching, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here's just a little bit of information about why we do what we do, why we don't offer lids or straws. Paper straws are a pain in the butt, but they're going to break down within 3 months.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. And this is why. And, most of our trash collection has to be shipped off into Gallup. So the border towns are literally making money off of our garbage.
Yeah.
And then we have the problems with dumping and etc. So just being aware of the waste we're creating is important to us. And then offering solutions and offering alternatives is just as important. And that's part of that education piece.
Yeah.
And then Skoden is in IndigiHub. So IndigiHub co-workspace. I think this way we can segue into, what we need as entrepreneurs for support.
Okay.
One of the biggest things I heard, this was years ago when I first started thinking about creating IndigiHub. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. Our mutual friend, Mark Deschini. So he's an entrepreneur and he makes weaving tools. And he was trying to either apply or fill out an application. And he went on Facebook and he's like, this is my experience. I need to write an application, but I went to the library and their computers were down. I went to the museum and the printer was out of ink.
Yeah.
I went to the Department of Economic Development and they told me you can't use your equipment unless you're an employee. So I had to drive to Gallup and pay $15 to use the printer and the copier. And when I was reading this, I was sitting in a co-working space called Kiln, and it's this beautiful space. It's gorgeous. And where I was at was this little office. I had classical music on. I was burning a candle. I was in a vibrating leather office chair.
Oh man, bougie.
Typing away on my laptop, and it broke my heart.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see business the same way, and it just seemed like such an injustice to me. And for someone like me that had access and opportunity in the city, I can open a business in under a week, all digitally. Everything, get my EIN, get my business license, my health permit, everything within a week.
Wow.
It takes so long to do it on the reservation. It can take Rob is still in a temporary business site lease. He doesn't have his permanent site lease yet. He's been there for 12, 13 years.
And just real quick in this, then maybe you could talk. I know you probably are touching on this, but what does it take to file that Navajo Nation business application?
So
and maybe that's what Mark Deschini was doing when he was.
There's no clear path. There's no clear path, and so for Skoden, we're considered temporary. We're a food stand. We're no different than the flea market. So the way we have to operate in those little buildings is as if we're in the flea market.
Wow.
We're only supposed to stock enough food for the day to sell for the day. So we're all temporary vendors. Wow. So Skoden, I'm paying taxes, but it was funny because you go to the tax commission and I was like, hey, I'm not sure if I need a business license. I don't know how. And she's like, well, you just on August, whatever, when the quarter ends, you fill out form 100, form 600. We'll receive it. We'll realize you don't have a file yet. So then we'll create a file for you.
Weird.
That's verbatim the answer I got.
That's so
So
confusing. I mean, like they're waiting for you. They're waiting to find out that you don't have a file to create a file,
yeah.
you know, which is like seems super weird.
So I'm still not sure. With the gas station, my sister, it took her almost 7 months, I think,
Mhm.
from start to finish, and that was her bothering them and going to the offices almost every day.
Mhm.
And there was again no streamlined step-by-step process. It
Mm.
was always, oh, you forgot this. Oh, go do this. Oh, wait, you forgot the comma. Oh, you can't use an ampersand. You have to spell out and. And now we need 6 copies, all of them stamped. What is that?
Notarized?
Yes, all
Notarized.
6 original notarized copies.
That's
And
wild.
it felt very arbitrary.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? There was at no point did anyone say, okay, step 1, step 2, all the way down. At no point. It was step 8 to 2 to 5 to 1. Oh, and then we're going to add a few steps
Wow.
here just
Wow.
randomly.
Mhm.
And none of the offices communicate, and they tell you that up front.
Mhm.
I don't know. That's not my department. I don't know. They don't talk to us.
Oh, these are the answers you're getting.
These are the answers we're getting. And worse than that, there's not a lot of support. It's always just, even with, like, we were sitting in a meeting and the who was it? The DD was one of the ladies was talking, and she's going through the so-called process, and we're trying to write it down. And she's like, and then you do this step, and this should be the last step. And then after that, you give up. That's what she told us in
Oh,
one of
that's
the
what she said.
classes.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Oh,
She
I
said,
thought you
and
were
then
saying,
you give up, ha ha ha,
oh my
like
God.
jokingly.
Oh, wow.
We're just like, what
Terrible.
the heck?
Well,
So
I
we're
mean,
told, like, even
uh-huh.
when I went to get my when I called the tax commission and said, what do I need? How do I pay taxes and blah blah? She's like, and she was telling me, well, you just fill out this and this, and she goes, and you open your business and hopefully you make money, ha ha ha. And I'm
Oh,
like,
geez.
why is this like the theme? This
Hmm.
expectation of failing.
Yeah.
That's hard on an entrepreneur when you know that most businesses fail within the first year, and then you're told you're going to fail up front. It's really hard. It doesn't create an environment where you feel like you have the ability to succeed, and
Yeah.
that worries me.
Hmm.
Because if you're not a kind of like a little bulldozer like I am, just like, well, I guess whatever, I'm going to do it,
Hmm. Hmm.
you're going to give up.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a safety net like I have, you're going to give up.
Hmm.
So that really concerns me. I think that I don't know what it would take. Sensitivity training.
Well, real quick here. I mean, like, so in kind of having gone through this process, even you and your sister, and it almost seemingly being like a trial and error process where you fill something out, you take it, they tell you another thing, you take it back, and they tell you another thing. Having navigated that process, what does it seem to take to get this application from A to Z? Like.
So this was exactly why I opened IndigiHub Cowork Hub, because I was talking to entrepreneurs that you have to file everything in Windrock. So if you're coming from like Hogback, you're coming from Hard Rock, that's like up to 3 hours travel.
Yep.
And then you go turn your paper in and they tell you, oh, this is all wrong. But you can't use our equipment to fix it. You have to go home, print it out again, fill it out again. So I wanted to fill that gap and create a co-work hub in Windrock, in the capital of the Navajo Nation. And what we do is we provide access to the internet, Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi, desk space, charging stations, a wireless printer so you can print out these applications right there in Windrock, all for free, all under the nonprofit.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I did. And then one of the biggest obstacles as well on Navajo is access to building space or commercial space.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is it few and far between, but the real estate cost is on par with downtown Salt Lake, downtown Phoenix.
Jeez.
So again, in order to model or provide a different business model, we're sharing resources. Sharing resources is really important. So we partnered with Skoden,
Mm-hmm.
and Skoden rents half of the space, and DigiHub rents the other half. And then we're looking maybe for a third tenant that can use it at night because we close at 3.
Mm-hmm.
And because again, if we have access and opportunity, we need to share that. We need to share resources. We don't succeed without others, and we need to start presenting competition as being healthy. I wouldn't care if it was another coffee shop that just did late night drinks.
Mm-hmm.
I would support them because we're a destination, and destination requires variety, or people get bored or they'll go to Gallup.
Yeah.
So it's in my best interest to provide opportunity for other entrepreneurs, even if they compete with me, because it's going to strengthen our little downtown in Window Rock. And that'll bring more people in, that'll bring more dollars in, and we can spread that around in our community. And that's the only way we succeed. We succeed together.
I think that that's a great point. I think that just for people who might have tuned in and just now tuned in or didn't catch that, I mean, if you need to use Wi-Fi, if you need to use printers to update any of your applications, or if you need a charging station, go to Skoden, as you know, it's a partnership with Skoden and DigiHub for them to help entrepreneurs and help you, move your paperwork forward, even more than that. But, I think if you're there on a day when you catch Blue, she might be able to help you even give you some ideas in terms of getting your applications processed. And that's the other thing that seems to be missing in this, is that, in terms of filing these business applications, and has it been your experience that they did any kind of workshops to say, okay, well, for entrepreneurs out there, this is what you're going to need. This is the first step, second step, and finally, at this step, you're complete, or anything like that? Like, were you offered any of those kinds of services?
The only ones that really do that are the leasing, if you're leasing from Navajo. But even that, because we had to transfer the lease, or my sister had to transfer the lease, that was a nightmare. It wasn't, again, there was a general outline, but again, it felt very arbitrary. Like, oh, here's some extra steps that weren't in the paperwork or weren't on the website.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it just takes a lot of tenacity and stubbornness, and then, just killing them with kindness, getting them on your side, because that always helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things we want to function as is to provide workshops and provide mentorship there around entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. One of the questions that we get asked a lot is, what other organizations are you working with? Mm-hmm. I work with the James Beard Foundation.
Oh, wow.
So I'm on the committee for the Black and Indigenous Food Fund. Mm-hmm. And the last round of grants that we gave were $15,000 a piece. We did 20 Indigenous, 20 Black-owned businesses. Mm-hmm. But the frustration for me is trying to get some of the food businesses on Navajo qualified was very difficult. Again, because they didn't have, and this is one of the things that's great about James Beard, is when we first started, of course, they wanted the business license, EIN, bank account, P&L. And I was, very straightforward. You just cut off like 90% of Indigenous entrepreneurs, because we don't have really the structure for this. There's only 2 banks on Navajo. Mm-hmm. One's Wells Fargo, and they're the devil. But so many of them operate on cash, and they don't even have a bank account. They don't really have access to QuickBooks. They can't pull a P&L, you know. So James Beard was really good about restructuring their application process and allowing for, okay, instead just send us a picture of the menu, some food items, maybe a letter of recommendation from your community. But we still got tripped up because they still wanted, you know, receipts and invoices. They just wanted some basic bookkeeping. And many of the entrepreneurs I worked with didn't even have that. So I wasn't able to get them funded. I did fund one just outside of the res in New Mexico, an indigenous owned business. We funded the one in LA. I can't remember her name, but she's got an awesome concept out there. Spirit Mountain Roasting Company won a $15,000 grant. But rural Navajo was really hard to get funded. I mean, could you imagine $15,000 to one of these food stands, and what a tremendous opportunity and what a difference that would make?
Yeah.
So we want to help with that component, the book, very simple bookkeeping, very simple financial record keeping. We want to offer workshops on that. We don't want to get super technical. You don't even have to use QuickBooks. You know, you can use a pen and paper. You could use a ledger. But, you know, you need to know what's coming in, what's going out. And that snapshot of your business will tell you, you know, okay, I have this on the menu, but it's not selling compared to these big sellers, and these are making me money, but this is costing me labor, this is costing me in shelf space. There's so many different ways you can cut costs to benefit your business and grow your business. But if we're not keeping track of it, we're just kind of flying blind. And we just want to give entrepreneurs tools to operate better and succeed.
So are those would those be some of the services that you currently offer, or are looking to kind of maybe implement through IndigiHub, maybe even through Skoden, the location, the workspace there in Window Rock?
Yes. Yeah, we're putting together a calendar and we're always looking for mentors too. If anybody is willing to give like an hour or two of their month even, and they have a special skill set, we're open, and we'd be more than willing to, you know, invite you to help our community, because it's really going to take, it's what it's going to take. It's going to take that grassroots level. And I say that because I've been to so many of the different boot camps that are offered around Navajo, and they come from a perspective of being in the city, operating in the city. We have a different set of rules. We have a different environment. So we need to be aware of that when we're teaching. And that's a big reason why I've been opening businesses on Navajo, is because I have to have that experience. I have to know what that experience is in order to build a model for teaching. Because I haven't run into anybody yet that has that model.
Yeah, that's really I think that the experience that you have really is valuable. And just in terms of being able to assist people along to kind of get things launched, even like you were talking about in terms of like keeping books, you know, a lot of us, a lot of vendors, entrepreneurs, but food vendors probably don't keep track of things like that. But just being able to kind of track inventory, what's coming in, like you're saying, and what's going out, assessing, you know, what could really what's working for them, and just you know, small little assessments would really kind of, you know, help them even being able to, like you're saying, you know, apply for certain types of grant funding, and looking at, you know, their past year of what they've spent and what they've gained or what they've made. But I think that's awesome. One of the things that I wanted to kind of go back to and follow up on was that spirit of partnership. You know, you talked about Skoden partnering with IndigiHub, and then maybe even also looking for other businesses to partner with, you know, even if it's something, you know, competitive, but just kind of trying to uplift people who are struggling or wanting to start a business, you know? So in that, I know that you have a pop-up shop happening
Yeah.
at Skoda maybe this Friday. Is that what it is? Maybe you could talk about it a little bit.
Hopefully tomorrow and Friday. So I'm playing around with a new concept called Robot, and it's burgers and tacos, but it's burgers on tortilla.
Cool.
And then tacos on blue corn tortilla.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So I'm having a pop-up tomorrow and Friday from noon to 3.
Okay.
And again, it's just I love burgers. And we did these great burgers at Black Sheep, so it's kind of a play on those burgers, and then our blue poblano taco recipes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's an opportunity for me to provide food that I love to my community, food that did well in the city. I want to bring it back home and hopefully partner with Prairie Dog Farms for our lettuce and cilantro. And
yeah,
I would love to get Navajo beef, but I'm not quite sure how to get them wholesale. I've been looking, but regardless, I have beef I'm bringing down that's from a local farmer. They feed their microgreen fed, so they use microgreen fodder. And it's great. So I'll be bringing that down as well. So
cool.
And if it works, people like it, I'd love to open a robot there in the marketplace.
Awesome. And I think that marketplace is really, I mean, there's so much potential there. I know that you're located right next to Marco Arviso, and a lot of people love Marco's work. I love Marco's work. And there's just other stands there. I know Scott's stand has been running a long running time in that space, and a lot of people look forward to going there. So that's really there's so much potential down there.
And shout out to Scott's, because they do purchase locally. I know that their steam corn is local, and they do their best to purchase locally. So
awesome.
They're amazing.
Just wanted to kind of this was a question from the chat, and I thought I'd circle back to it, but any thoughts about a cookbook? Have you kind of pondered that? I know Mark had extensive recipes. I seen that you've been looking through some of those. But have you ever given that any thought?
So yes. So for those that don't know, we lost Mark at the very beginning of 2021 to COVID, unfortunately. Wow. And I started cooking just a little bit before we lost him, and then after I just really delved into cooking, and I've just been cooking and replicating a lot of his recipes, kind of as my healing process. I do have a plan to make a cookbook out of his recipes, but it may take a little while because I'm still in the grieving process. I might be for a while, and I think Robot is a big part of that, because it's the way we work together. It was amazing, because I'd come up with a concept for a dish or a meal or a menu, and he would just pull it out of his head. The coolest thing about Mark and his talent, and with his palate and his experience, one of the first awards we won was at an event called Celebrate the Bounty in Salt Lake, and it was a competition of 36 restaurants.
Oh wow.
And Salt Lake, of course, is the capital of Utah. It's the biggest city in Utah. So competing against 35 other restaurants. And 6 months until the event, I was like, hey, we need a dish. What are we serving? What do you want to serve? He's like, I'm thinking about it. Hey, we're a month away. I need a dish. I need to tell him something. I'm still thinking about it. Mark, this competition next week.
Oh man.
He's like, okay, do this, and this. And we did, and what he came up with was It's a maple bay leaf barbecue hog jowl taco.
Wow.
So it's hog cheek in a maple bay leaf barbecue sauce with pickled jicama, cotija, and cilantro on house-made blue corn tortillas.
Oh man, that sounds amazing.
He'd never tasted it. He just came up with it.
Wow.
I remember he's cooking and I was like, dude, we need something. He's like, okay, this, and this. And we threw it together and we prepped it for the next few days. We went to the event. He showed up late because he was still doing service at the restaurant. And we plated it and they judged it and we won out of 36 restaurants.
Dang, that's so awesome.
And he didn't taste it until 6 months later. 6 months later, it could, because when you're cooking, and I don't know if there are any chefs in here, but when you're cooking, you don't want to eat your food. You just don't. Like, it's really rare that I eat my food. Like, I'll get done with the service or I'll get done with a catering event and I'll just go to McDonald's or Taco Bell because I'm over it.
Whoa.
So one day he had the day off and he came in and he's like, let me try the tacos. And like, oh wow, this is good. But that became our award-winning taco and we were famous for it.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
So someday that'll be in the cookbook.
Cool. Yeah, well, I hope you follow through with that. You know, I hope that eventually I'd look forward to that. I'm gonna throw back to the chat here because we're coming back up on the hour, but somebody we have Kit Marie in who left a comment. She said I'd like to learn how to do workers' comp, workers' tax, workers' checks, etc. And then her other comment was Navajo Nation fair vending spots are now over 1,000. And I'm not sure what area she's talking about, but she's like, you know, how is it that we're going to make money? I don't know if you have any insights into any of those particular questions or responses.
If it's the flea market, I know they sold the whole week.
Oh.
So I know because I work with I've been working kind of doing the marketing and revamping the area with my sister. Our biggest push is 1, security, 2, maintenance and repairs, and 3, rebranding and making it. So we want to make it safer for families, for tourism. We also, our priority though is the vendors. The vendors need to be our priority. So they are definitely our priority. Cleanliness. My whole family has been clearing the whole, I don't know if people have noticed, but the whole sides by the roads, we cleared we weeded and cleared of trash. And we're really careful about, like, everybody picks up trash. And the cool thing is the culture of that corner is starting to change. And it was Marco. We were standing there just kind of watching everybody, and, you know, the picnic tables were being filled up with little families, which was great to see. And they were purchasing their meals from not just the flea market vendors, but the other vendors. And that was great to see. But then you started to see them taking their trash to the trash can. And Marco was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, they're starting to take pride in that corner. And that's what we need. We just need that cultural shift. Yeah. That way we can bring in more dollars for the vendors. We can, you know, everybody, again, I think they only raised it off fair season, $1, but the $1 goes to maintain the bathrooms and hire security for the weekend.
And just real quick, just for clarification though, the other thing I didn't see was she said inside the fair rodeo.
Oh, I don't have insight into that.
But yeah, but just like, I guess the main point being, you know, like, it's $1,000, you know, like, how are we supposed to make money? But what you're talking about in terms of that flea market area, it does, you were saying that prices might have went up, you know, a little bit, but it's going towards all of these other areas, which are
absolutely
areas, you know.
And I think that's what the fair should do. So those prices should go towards creating a safer, cleaner, more productive space for the vendors. I mean, that's the point. And that's one of the points I didn't really touch on, but I wanted to, was many of the buildings that we have as entrepreneurs gain access to, they're owned by the tribe. Unless they're private or fee simple land, they're owned by the tribe. but the tribe does little to no maintenance on them. So I know where we're at. We haven't, I've been there, let's see, I started in DigiHub there 5 years ago. And that 5 years until just currently, my sister took over. We didn't have air conditioning.
Oh, wow.
Literally did not have air conditioning. So things like that, the nation really needs to look into supporting entrepreneurship, even on a national scale, small business, not just small business, micro business. Because small business is defined by having under or around $1 million annually revenue and under 500 employees. So we're talking about micro business, 2 or 3, 10, 20, 40 employees, maybe breaking 100,000 a year. That's micro businesses. That's 90% of the American economy.
Wow.
So the Navajo Nation, they have this myopic view of how to generate economic activity, and it's usually a multi-million-dollar project. But what they fail to see is we don't have the microeconomy to support that. So we're still, all those dollars that come in, they're going to create jobs, but those jobs, we're still going to leak all of that revenue because we have nowhere to invest it locally. So that $1 million hotel or resort, they're going to outsource their security. They're going to outsource their construction. They're going to outsource their linens. They're going to outsource their food. None of that revenue is retained in the community because those small micro businesses don't exist yet. We need to focus on that, and that'll keep us from that economic leakage. That is, like, we're the only demographic, Indigenous people on reservations, that have 24-hour economic leakage, which means we get paid on Friday, it's gone by Sunday.
Yeah, that's so, like, it's so critical to think about that and to try to reassess or put forth a paradigm where people are able to kind of support local endeavors,
Exactly.
And just like you were saying, like even things like linen or, food processing, meat processing. I mean, we need those things to happen within our tribal boundaries so that we're not always coming to the borders to have them done. And then, there goes our money. But just real quick, another little update, Blue's sister said in the chat that the flea market spots are $30 for 5 days. Just a little clarification. So if you guys are looking, for a flea market spot during the fair, you guys might want to get over there because, spots will probably go quickly. We're at the hour. I think that we could talk for another hour easily. And maybe we'll continue maybe we should have a live from Skodan sometime, or
that would be cool.
Do something like that and talk about other ideas. We talked about doing a record shop. We should do a pop-up record shop down there.
Let's do it. We need to do a pop-up record and thrift shop.
Yeah, pop-up record, thrift, collectible, something like that. We'll have to get it together. But it's great to hear all of the insight from your experience. I think anybody who's watching should just take note in terms of, sometimes you have to keep pushing forward. Sometimes the answer, a lot of times here, as we navigate tribal and the tribal bureaucracy, even in regards to starting a business, you have to just keep pushing forward. You can't give up. There's, you can't take no for an answer and then go back and say, well, there it goes, I'm not going to do it anymore. But you got to keep trying. There is a kind of a bigger picture that we're all building towards in terms of trying to support and build these local economies. And it starts with each and every one of us, just like Blue here, who has been determined to continue to make things work here on the Navajo Nation. And I think that that's awesome. Anything you want to say as we close? Any last words before we wrap this up?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to share my experience. I mean, again, this is my perspective, my experience, and what I think is helpful. And I'm always open. If you need to reach me, I'm just blueadams@gmail. If you want to put that in the chat. Okay. I am an open book. So if you have any questions for me or I can help you in any way, I would love to.
Sure. I'll put her email in the chat. And good to see you. I'll come down to Skodan. I'll check out the robot pop-up tomorrow or the next day and just kind of see what's going
And
on.
I'm gonna try to have mushroom tacos for you.
Hey, all right. Dang, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to it all. But again, thanks for agreeing to come on. Next week, we're gonna have Lyndon Sosi here from the House of Stamps, House of Lyndon. He's a silversmith. So anybody who's watching, please tune in next week. And we're glad that you joined us today. And we'll see you next week. So Hagonet.
Bye, guys.